You will not believe this body cam video.
Christ.
Police discover a disgusting storage unit, and inside there are 2 dogs dead.
I don't know where I don't know where the second dog is. I was just here and she was fine, so I don't know where.
What is just here?
Not only is it shocking what the woman who allegedly left the dogs in there to die told police, you won't believe what she does for a living. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. How could someone leave an animal, 2 animals in this case, trapped in, frankly, a metal box at the height of summer in Florida on a day when the heat index was roughly 95 degrees? That's what a woman's accused of doing to 2 dogs. Both of them passed away, and police say one of them was found dead near a door that was locked when police came inside.
In the right corner, like, there's a pink crate. The bag's leaning against there. I don't know where I don't know where the second dog is. I was just here and she was fine, so I don't know where.
What is just here? Like
2 nights ago.
2 nights ago?
Yeah.
That is 21-year-old Alexia Barquet. Police say she's the person responsible for a storage unit in Bunnell, Florida. It's a rural community northwest of Orlando. We'll have more on what she had to say for herself on police body camera video in just a moment. Now, officers were called to this storage unit on July 19th. A person who rents space there called police because of just how bad the smell was inside. And this is what police found when they entered that storage unit.
Jesus Christ.
Thankfully, we cannot smell through the screen because it was reportedly awful. And you can also just see for yourself here the mess that the officer is going through. And according to police records, the bodies of 2 dogs were found inside that storage unit. 1 dog was in a black bag, and then there was another dog that was by a door. The dog in the black bag was a 5-year-old black lab, and then the dog whose body was found by the door, a 2-year-old black lab named Karma.
Christ.
Labrador motor 15 cents. Labrador Charlie 111, try to check. Okay. Labrador Charlie 342, try to check. Set. Charlie, Charlie, 8, phone copy under 1050. Set. US on Barquet, horrifying, Romeo, Quebec, Tango, Bravo, 32, RQG, E32, Blue Volkswagen. Okay.
Hey man, I missed your call. If you want to give me a call back when you get a chance, I'm serious because we're ready to traffic. Thanks.
Ready to meet 11 touch, sir? Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, it's me. What's that?
Motor 50, flight of 6 inches. Motor 15.
Police say the heat index was 96 on that day they went into the storage unit. Now, there was an AC running, but police say there was no cold air coming out of it. And it is just horrible and heartbreaking to think of what those two animals went through. And you also have to wonder, what kind of person would leave them in that condition?
So would you say, like, from the time you had your baby until now, how many times do you think somebody, either you or whoever you sent, came by to take care of you?
About like, if I'm being honest, like probably
3 or 4 times from
a week. No.
Okay,
Oh,
so
every
how-
week.
okay.
So 6 times 4 or 6 times 3.
Where did you put the first dog?
She's in
bag,
the
but
bag. In the right corner, like there's a pink crate.
That's 21-year-old Alexia Barquet. She is reportedly the tenant who was renting the space where the bodies of these two dogs were found. Now, Barquet says the 5-year-old dog, that dog's name was Ava, and that was the dog that was found in a bag. She actually had discovered the dog dead a couple of days prior. Now, the reason she found that dog dead a couple days prior, she says, is because the owner of the complex with these storage units called her because the other tenants were complaining about the smell of her storage unit. So she went to go clean it up. She discovers one of her dogs had died. And instead of taking that dog somewhere out of this storage unit, according to court records, apparently she just put the dog in a black trash bag. She says she fed the other dog, Karma, that was in this storage unit. Then she left. And that other dog, named Karma, 2-year-old black lab, would die a couple days later when police discover all of this when they go into the storage unit after they were called there by someone else who was renting space and could just smell just the horrific situation that was going on inside. Now, Alexa tells police that she hadn't been able to make it out to this storage unit where she was keeping these two dogs that often because 6 weeks prior she had a newborn. So she had a lot going on. She also did talk about having some postpartum depression. She said she had someone else come and check on the dogs and she didn't realize that all of this was going on. Now, here's more of what she told police. And as you're listening to this, frankly, brace yourself for when I tell you what it appears she does for a living, because when we found it out, our jaws dropped.
I don't know where the second dog is. I was just here and she was fine, so I don't know where.
What is just you? Like
2 nights ago.
2 nights ago?
Yeah, so not
last,
just
the last
but
time you saw your other dog, what's the name of the other dog?
Karma. So I don't know where she's located at because
And Karma, what kind of, how old is Karma?
2,
2, and what is she?
a black lab,
And what is her first dog?
another black lab, and she was around 5. She
And
just
what was
turned
her
5.
name?
Ava.
Ava?
Ava's the one in the back, right?
But I'll try to buy it. We contact animal control, having 1051 so far. We got 2 Signal 7 dogs.
The other, you know,
Right.
I didn't know she was not alive.
Yeah, we got a call about the smell, which I'm assuming is probably the dog in the bag, and then everyone I've talked to said they've heard the dogs here, but when we were knocking, we didn't hear
Yeah,
the
and
dog.
yeah. This is like I said. I didn't know. I told you guys, who's dog in there? What do I do with her? I didn't expect to come to this. And yeah, that's the first I found about it too. Because the same thing happened with Ava. I was here, and then next day got a call. Hey, there's a funky smell, and I'm like, let me just go clean up the poop. I cleaned up the poop and then walked in here, and I'm like, it's not the poop.
All right, so just based on everything that we have right now,
Driver Charlie 211.
right now you're not placing no risk, but you're going to be secure, okay, until we figure this out. Okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So go ahead and turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Make your hands like a train.
Vanilla 25.
Well, 20.
Vanilla 23, that's Whiskey Foxtrot security.
10-4.
There, found his dog. Alrighty.
Just put her in the back, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Alright, so I'm just gonna take you to my car, have a seat for a minute where there's AC and stuff. Hope it's sound okay? Okay. Alright.
Want to switch her real quick?
Will you just lean your head on the car for me real quick and spread your legs? I'm just gonna pat you up, make sure I'm not there.
Yeah.
That's the
The silver one, the pink one. Yeah, what was there anything on you?
Alright, you're good.
Now, we haven't had too many episodes like this on our show where we're talking about animal abuse. It's obviously a very important topic. It is a gut-wrenching topic each time that it comes up. But in a lot of these cases, it is not often you have people who professionally take care of animals who would be accused of something like this. And when we looked up Alexia Barquet, when we looked up the address of where this storage unit was located, frankly, our jaws dropped when we realized what she apparently does for a living. She is apparently a dog trainer. The same address that police responded to for the storage unit on East Court Street is where a dog training business is located, a pet service business, which bills itself on Facebook as a place where they train dogs and their owners with customizable programs to fit you and your dog needs. On the company Facebook page, you also see a picture of Alexia with an animal from as recently as June 3rd. Now, you heard her tell police that she recently had a baby just 6 weeks prior. On June 14th, the company posted that they were charging $50 for dog training phone consultations while she was on leave. Now, even though she says she thought that this AC was running. Police go inside. They say there is an air conditioning unit there. It appeared to be on, but there was no cold air coming out of it. How much of an excuse is that? Because when the heat index is 96 degrees in Florida in the summer, and if you've ever lived through that, it is so humid. You just cannot imagine that someone wouldn't go into that space and not feel just how hot and dangerous for the animals it was inside. In the wake of Barquet's arrest, this is what the police chief had to say, quote, "This is a disgusting case of animal cruelty, and these dogs died in a condition no animal should ever face. Animals depend entirely upon their owners for food, clean water, safe shelter, exercise, medical attention, and protection from dangerous conditions. Owning an animal carries a serious responsibility, one no person can ignore or set aside when providing care becomes difficult. Animal cruelty has no place in Bunnell, and our department maintains zero tolerance for anyone who abuses, neglects, or abandons an animal. When someone violates this fundamental duty and causes suffering or death, our officers will investigate thoroughly, follow the evidence, and relentlessly pursue full accountability under Florida law." Barquet's bond was set at $6,000 per court records, and her next court date is set for August 25th. Joining us now to talk about this is Alexis Rosenberg, trial attorney. Always great to have you here on Law and Crime. How does the law look at cases like this? Because clearly it's horrific what happened to these animals, and we all love animals, but we're not talking about human being victims here, but still important victims in this story. But how does the law handle that in a case that is pretty horrific like this one?
Well, thank you for having me, of course. And animal cases, they really do incite people. I mean, because we have vulnerable animals that really don't have any way of protecting themselves. It's very similar to if we had a small child. So, I mean, this is very upsetting what happened, leaving animals, abandoning them, having them more or less bake in what seems to be an unair conditioned storage unit in Florida. And it gets extremely hot here for anybody who hasn't been to Florida. And being in an unair conditioned storage unit is just a horrible way to die, which is also kind of surprising because there's very few unair conditioned storage units in Florida because of the heat. And just even forget about having animals in there, just having furniture or stuff like
Right.
that would generally get moldy anyway. So that's kind of interesting to start with. But they do look, and the laws in Florida have gotten much stronger against animal cruelty, because a few years ago, there was a dog in the middle of a hurricane that was actually tied up.
I remember that.
On the side of the road. So our governor has put in stronger laws against animal cruelty and those type of things. So, she is facing potential jail time here, and we have 2 counts. So each count, she's facing up to 5 years. That would be total of 10 years for these 2 counts, which is very clear that they could get to, because we have 2 separate, I believe they were Labrador retrievers, labs, that were found in that unit that unfortunately, had more or less been murdered because they were left there, right?
Right.
And so, it's not looking good for her.
No, and 96 degrees, I think, was the heat index. Summertime, Florida. I mean, it's just, and the fact that she had been, according to police, to that storage unit multiple times. You have the first dog who passes away, and then she just leaves that animal in there, and then, comes back, and she gave a few reasons / excuses to police at the time, about why she wasn't there more. I wonder, in cases like this too, like animal abuse cases, like how often are these not reported? Someone has a pet, we've all had pets, right, growing up, who pass away, and it just happens. And it's not like a human being where like you're reporting it through like a medical examiner. And I just think in this case, like the fact that the, tenants of this storage unit, had an issue with the smell and could hear the dogs barking there, like, not like it's a good thing that it went down this way, but it's also very possible, like, she could have shown up and just like put the dogs away and no one would have ever known, I feel like.
Well, this brings up a very good point, Chris. I mean, they're hearing the dogs bark. Why wasn't animal control called out there more than once?
Right.
Why was it only one time that they were called out? Why didn't the owner of the storage unit or the management company, why didn't they call animal control? I'm sure it's in violation of the terms of that storage unit. It's kind of sad that they weren't called out prior to that so that this did not happen. It sounds to me like there's more going on here. Like usually we hear about animal cruelty, like somebody's harming or leaving a dog tied up in the middle of a hurricane. This sounds like a little more like, was she homeless? There's also supposedly there was an air conditioning unit in there, but it wasn't blowing cold air. I feel like there's a little, do we have a mental health issue going on? And one of the things that a lot of times when we have animal abuse cases is the court can order a psychological testing. They can order psychological counseling along with saying that the person can't have a dog ever or an animal ever again. Not ever. Usually it's for an extended amount of time, like such as at least 5 years, but it can extend past that. So, was there more going on in this situation? Because the pictures, it looks like there's couches in there, and the way they're set up isn't how you would normally see a storage unit. It almost looks like maybe somebody was staying, like she was staying there part of the time.
Well, yeah, and I know that it seems, and just before we started, I kind of like found this is that she apparently works as like a dog trainer, maybe on the side of some sort, which like on one part of it, you're like, how does this go for that business going forward? But, on the other end of it, like, I also wonder in cases like this, like, obviously, if we were talking about human victims, this would be a national news story if this is how someone passed away. And then on top of it, I would think of like the autopsies that would be done, the investigating that would be done, looking into it. Like in an animal abuse case, like how much work, not to say like effort, but like if you're a DA, you got a lot going on. Like how much time and effort do you put into this case when it comes to prosecuting someone and, having them, feel the full length of the law, as opposed to like a human case where they obviously would. Just, like how does a DA's office kind of handle an animal abuse case like this and figuring out like exactly the path forward and how much effort you actually want to put into investigating it?
So in Florida, the state attorney's office is probably, they don't have to prove, remember with animal cruelty, you don't have to prove that the animal was killed. There's a lot of in between there. So they're not going to be putting in the same amount of money or time to that they would if it was a human being or a child. But that being said, I mean, this is pretty much a clear case from the animal cruelty perspective because it was her storage unit. I believe that was clear. We had the animals found there. They have proof, I'm assuming, that of her coming and going based on video. I'm sure there was some sort of video surveillance having to do with that. And then the animals are in there and they're dead. So they're not going to, we're not going to have a forensic team coming in there. We're not going to be sending off evidence to the forensics team. They may or may not send it off to see, the cause of death. In this case, probably not because of the evidence that's surrounding that, with her having the storage unit and all of that. But going back to your previous question about, how many times do we not catch or people aren't arrested for animal cruelty? A lot, because like you said, there's not a death certificate if your animal has passed. And in this case, one of those dogs was actually in a black plastic bag, I believe, right, and it already passed. So that says, what was she going to do with that bag? Most likely she was going to dispose of that particular dog's body, and she wasn't going to be announcing how this happened. What is really disturbing to me is she had the other dog, and the dog had passed. that would kind of be a red flag that this isn't an environment that the other dog could sustain and stay alive. But that didn't, even after that, stop her from keeping the dog there. And that's why I was getting, not that it's a defense, but it does go to the psychology, which also is not required. But like I mentioned, sometimes they will order mandatory psychological counseling as to why the dogs were there. Does she not have a house? Was she homeless? Was she couch surfing and individuals would not let her have her dogs there? And it goes back to the pictures, because usually when you have a storage unit, most people are going to get the smallest storage unit they can possibly get because it costs less money. And you're going to be stacking that stuff on top of each other. But you saw those pictures and there was a lot of unused space. The couches were kind of set up as if you were lounging in them like a human being. And it wasn't set up how you would normally have a storage unit if you weren't at some point actually staying in that storage unit.
Well, and I know it's just kind of interesting in like these types of cases, which like we don't, always talk about animal abuse cases, but in this one, obviously you see the visuals of it and the details are just, it raises the threshold of like, this is a story that we need to talk about. And it's interesting looking at like the comments online and the attention that this story gets. I mean, the anger that people have because of what happened to these animals. But then at the same time, this case is getting more of a reaction than some murder cases, that we'll talk about, which is just interesting because it is, and I'm not trying to open the door of like whose life matters more, like a dog or an animal, but it is like this kind of interesting, I think, debate that I'm sure, and you talk like Florida, Governor DeSantis, some of the laws that have been passed there when it comes to, raising the bar when it comes to holding people accountable, because there is this emotional reaction and a love that we all have for animals. But then at the same time, you're kind of balancing out, resources that you might have, I guess.
Chris, you're right. Animals, it is interesting that they really do incite so much emotion compared a lot of times to if you actually have a human being that has died. And I think that's across the board. And, a lot of people do feel, many people closer, unfortunately, to their animals, feel more loved and love their animals than some of their family members. And that's a reality of the situation. So, and hearing about the way these animals did die, it's egregious. I mean, like I said before, basically they baked to death.
Yeah.
And if you really get into how that happens, it's a horrible way to die. And we have this with kids that are accidentally left in the back seat of cars by parents. It is an egregious way to die. The thing here is, though, that she knew, like you had said, she had been warned. So I do think that she's potentially going to get some jail time. Do I think she will get 5 years? No, I don't think she'll get 10 years either, but I do think potentially she could get some jail time because of the warning, because even if she goes in, and as a defense attorney, you're going to go in and argue that, and this is kind of what I was getting to, that it was a situational thing. She was coming by, she was seeing the dog, she was leaving food, the dogs had eaten the food, she had an air conditioning, she didn't know the air conditioner had gone out. And there is a high likelihood, I don't know how long they were hearing the barking, but if they were hearing the barking for quite a while, then that air conditioner at some point had to have been working, or they would have passed much sooner. So these are some things that a defense attorney is going to get into. However, we are going to, does it meet? I mean, I think the food issue that you brought up, the lessers, I mean, that is going to be easier to get a conviction. It really is, when did that air conditioner go out? But once again, we've got the first dog that she knew about, because we believe she was allegedly the one that put the dog in the bag and knew that dog had passed. And so now she's kind of on notice, right, of the fact that this is not a safe situation for the second dog.
No, and it's a sad case all the way around. We'll see how legally it plays out. Interesting discussion, of course, when it comes to animal cruelty cases. We never want to see stories like this. Just a tough case. Alexis Rosenberg, trial attorney from Florida. Always great to have you here on Law and Crime. Thanks for joining us to talk about this case.
Thanks for having me.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify, and we are also streaming on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.